Coming up on the Fish on Forever podcast.
Bring those fish to Devil's Lake to try to, supplement the population a little bit.
When they get lockjaw, don't be afraid to go the opposite and just get frickin' fired up.
Transition the remote area border crossing permit issuance program to a telephone reporting approach.
Since, 2011, we've kind of been trending down a little bit.
This is the Fish on Forever podcast, formerly Sporting Journal Radio, presented by OnX. Know where you stand with OnX. Well, it is our final show of 2025, or maybe depending on when you're watching or listening, the first show of 2026. I'm not quite sure where we stand on that issue right now. But as we're recording this, it's our final show of the year. So we're going to talk about some of our favorite things that we did throughout the year that you can do and will want to plan for in 2026. I'm Bret Amundsen. That's Dan Amundsen. How you feeling, Dan?
Terrible. Well, I'm feeling better today, but I'm not doing well.
It really sucks that we're actually all in the same room, David, with him right now.
It's very unfortunate.
David Uckhart. David, we got a new camera for you. We're just not using it yet. We'll get that thing working next week, I promise. Big show. Some Devil's Lake perch stocking going to happen this year. We'll find out all about that project and what's going on with the fish at Devil's Lake and if it's needed. We have a biologist with the North Dakota Game and Fish Department. His name is Todd Caspers, and he's going to join us to talk about that later in the show. Also, we have Joe Henry joining us from Lake of the Woods Tourism, and he's got a special guest, Ethan Peterson from Cyrus Resort. He's on the lake, actually, so we're going to get a report from the ice with Ethan coming up later in the show. But first, Dan, who are the sponsors this week?
Lake of the Woods Tourism. Lake of the Woods is the walleye capital of the world. Plan a trip to Lake of the Woods at lakeofthewoodsmn.com. OnX Hunt. See private land boundaries, offline maps, and more. Take 20% off a new membership with code SGR20. Haybale Heights Campground and Resort. Fish out of a snow bear at Haybale Heights. Learn more at haybeleheights.com. Tasman Lake Lodge. Catch world record lake trout and giant pike at Saskatchewan's Tasman Lake. Learn more at tasmanlake.com. And Prairie Sportsman, new season is coming soon. You can watch episodes anytime at the Prairie Sportsman YouTube channel.
Probably should have David read that for you. Give you a little break this week. Nice job powering through it. Time for headlines right now. Headlines. And headlines are brought to you by Space Trailers. For any of you, David, I don't know if you've ever had an RABC before, remote area border crossing permit.
I have not.
So Dan and I have had these for some trips that we take. People that go up to the Northwest Angle do it. There's a handful of places where you need a remote area border crossing permit. Well, a couple of years ago now, Dan, was it 2 years ago or last year? They stopped the process. Canada stopped issuing these RABCs. And the reasoning was that they're going to update it and come up with an app, and they're just waiting to develop this app. Well, now we got an email the other day. They are going to transition. Let's see here. They are going to transition the remote area border crossing permit issuance program to a telephone reporting approach as of September 14th, 2026. So if you have an RABC right now, it's going to remain valid until September 13th, 2026. After that date, no more RABC. You're going to have to go through a port of entry or through a telephone reporting center as it's done in other remote areas of the country. It's to enhance security at the border. I'm not sure if that's going to make our lives easier or not, Dan.
I'm going to guess, I don't know. I don't think it's really going to change a whole lot. It's probably going to change not a whole lot for Lake of the... Actually, it's going to probably not be great for Lake of the Woods because you're going to have to sit on the telephone at Jerry's instead of just having the RABC to go through.
Yeah.
But that's pretty easy process as far as like the boundary water stuff. I'll be curious how that's going to work. I don't know if they're going to put a phone at, like the end of the gunflint and stuff like that. I'm not quite sure. That's got to be it. I was trying to think where the phone would be over there for Pigeon River or whatever, or that area, the Boundary Waters area, I guess. It's got to be up at the end of the gunflint, I suppose. I would guess. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, we'll find out. I'm sure that, again, if you have an RABC, it's good till September 13th next year. And then after that, everything's going to change. So more will be coming out about that, I'm sure. DNR is seeking public comments on proposed administrative rules governing fur farms. Okay, so if you're in the fur farm area, you can find out more on the DNR website. Also, okay, guys, this is something you guys can participate in, all right? The DNR is welcoming people to the state parks. They have lists of activities I think they listed 6 activities that you can do in state parks in the winter in Minnesota, land of 10,000 lakes. Where do you think ice fishing ranks for recommended activities from the Minnesota DNR out of 6?
At state parks?
It is at state parks, yes.
Probably number 6.
I would guess 6 too, because I can't think of one state park that is ideal, like inside the state park, that's ideal for ice fishing.
It's number 4. Number 4. And Minnesota residents can fish without a fishing license in many state parks, and this includes ice fishing. You can find out more on the DNR website. Now, what do you think ranks ahead of ice fishing in state parks?
Snowshoeing, hiking.
Candlelight hiking for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you've named two of the 3.
Cross-country skiing.
That's number 6. So there's one left.
Geocaching.
No.
Really?
Camping.
Did
No.
you say birding?
I did not. That is number 1.
Yeah.
Bird watching. The DNR is number 1 recommended activity in state parks this winter. Bird watching.
That's fine.
Ice
Do
fishing.
that. Do that in state parks and leave our WMAs for hunters. How about that?
Ice fishing is number 4.
Serious question. Can you think of a state park that has a lake inside that's good for ice fishing?
Well,
I can't think of one.
Maplewood State Park has got a couple of lakes that you can fish. And, muskie fishing, particularly on Beers Lake, is pretty good. I might be letting out a little bit of a secret there.
You can't muskie fish in the winter, though.
But that I was just going to say that's more of an open water activity.
What were the other things on the list?
Well, that was the 6. So it was number 1 was bird watching. Number 2 was snowshoeing. Number 3 was winter hiking, not to be confused, was summer hiking. Number 4 was fishing. Number 5 was cross-country skiing. Maybe there was only 5. I thought there was 6. I guess there was only 5.
Huh.
So.
You're great at this.
All right, that is headlines brought to you by Space Trailers. I have the green High Rider. It's got all-terrain tires. It's only a 600-pound trailer, but it can haul 1,000 pounds. It can easily be pulled behind your ATV or side-by-side. You can put ATVs in these trailers as well, and mine has some space bars up on top. You can put 225 pounds of gear on top of these things. I've seen people put tents up there and camp out of them. There's 8 different color options. My buddy Jason was over and looked at it. He goes, that's pretty cool. What colors do they come in? Because I don't know if he wants it to match or if he wants his wife to match or something like that. But I have a feeling he wants to put one behind one of his Scouts. So he wants some different color options. There's also 3 different wheel and tire options. Find out more about this Red Wing-based company at spacetrailers.com. All right, we got to do some pretty cool things in 25. We want to tell you how you can do them in 26, and we'll do that when we come back. Sick of eating tagged soup? It's time to own your odds this fall with OnX Hunt, the GPS hunting app trusted by millions of hunters. Now you'll have access to nationwide public and private land ownership information, waypoints, optimal win for each stand, tracks, and much more. All at your fingertips. Go to onxmaps.com/hunt and use code SJR20 at checkout to receive 20% off your membership. That's code SJR20. All right, we're back, and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everybody. Dan, I heard about a lot of people getting sick, actually.
I don't know what's going around. I don't know what I have. I'm just ticked that it basically has wrecked the rest of my deer season because I'm feeling a lot better, but I don't know if you can. I've tried to turn my microphone off when I cough, but whitetails can hear coughs from long ways away. So I think my deer season's over because I don't think I'll be able to have a deer walk within bow range with the noises coming out of my lungs.
And I'm sure sitting outside in
cold weather,
sub-freezing temperatures is going to be real healthy for you.
Nothing has made me feel better than the Arctic air just shooting down the great feeling of my swollen lungs or whatever's happened. I'm trying to make this sound poetic. There's no good way
swollen,
to. I don't
swollen
know.
lungs.
Yeah. It sounds like something an old crusty outdoor writer would say.
Wow. That's just a regular poet. The new poet of Minnesota poet right there, Dan, talking about his swollen lungs.
They're going to put my house in a museum someday.
Yeah. So I think your mom characterized it as a nasty cold.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I mean, you Google cold, you Google flu, you Google COVID, you Google norovirus, whatever, and they all are the same thing. You know, a cough, sneeze, sore throat, fever, this, that, blah, blah, blah. There's no difference in them. None whatsoever. So I don't know what I have. I'm not going to pay a doctor to tell me to rest and drink water and take NyQuil or something. So here we are, figuring it out.
Well, I hope you feel better.
Yeah, hopefully you feel better.
Thanks, guys.
Coughing in stands. Deer can hear that. Deer can also hear you pull your hand out of your pocket, David?
Yes, I got caught the other night. I had a deer sneak up on me, and it was dead calm, and I had my hands in my pockets, and every time I'd try and pull him out to grab my bow, it would stop and look and listen, and then it'd step a little more, and then finally got my hands out of my pockets to grab my bow, and when I picked up my bow, my backpack on the other side of the strap slid down the tree a couple inches, so that deer ran off. So I sat in the cold for nothing.
I feel like we've heard this story a couple weeks ago, just on a worse scale. Yeah.
I did. I felt a little bit like Dan.
Yeah, good.
You'll have that. I
felt pretty cool. If you have swollen lungs?
No, I did not. No.
I think the only thing worse than like sitting in a tree bow hunting on a really windy day is sitting in a tree bow hunting on a dead calm day.
Yeah.
Because the sound travels so far.
And every time I'd shift my weight on my stand, it would creak because it was 10 degrees. I'm like, oh, man.
Yeah.
I'm never going to get a chance at a deer.
I'll tell you, this isn't a plug for Sitka's Fanatic suit, but it is kind of in a sense because I finally got it this year. The amount of less amount of noise I make.
Oh, yeah.
Just because I've got warm clothes that don't crinkle and make noise every time you shift a little bit. Pretty handy. So that was something I got this year that's recommended if you like to bow hunt. And there are some other things that we were able to do or get throughout this last year that you could put on your calendar for next year. What were some of the highlights for you guys? Dan, let's start with you. What do you think was one of your highlights that somebody could do in 26?
Well, the biggest highlight is something I don't even want to tell people to go do it. It was waterfowl in Canada. I don't want to tell people to go because I want to keep it all for myself.
Yeah.
But that was something else that, hunting snow geese it'll humble you real fast, but man, it's been a lot of fun to do it the last couple of years in the fall, and it makes me not really ever want to hunt them in the spring ever again. It's been a ton of fun, but by all means, please keep hunting them in the spring and only do that, and don't hunt them in the fall. Leave them for me.
Yeah.
But the other thing was tarpon fishing in Punta Gorda in Englewood Beach down there was something every angler should do. I never had a big thrill of an excitement to go fish saltwater, but after doing that, I want to do that every winter and spring for the rest of my life. That was just an absolute blast. What
was your favorite part you think about being down there?
Well, catching fish.
I mean, the tarpon, the grouper.
Oh, definitely the tarpon. Not even close. It was the tarpon. Just the whole seeing that many fish down there, the raw power, how a fish that big can skyrocket out of the water in 10 feet into the air, hit the water, and then be 30 feet to the left and out of the water again a split second later. I don't know how those fish do it. What they can do is so incredible. It's so cool.
We filmed down there, and I know, Dan, you're working on the video that's going to be out on the Fish Hunt Forever YouTube channel soon. And we kind of watched a few of the clips the other day, David, and I'd forgotten about this, but one of the first, I think it was the first fish I hooked into with Jay Withers down there. I hooked into it right away, like immediately. All of a sudden I was hooked up, and this tarpon's flipping out of the water, and he's like, when they jump, point your rod down. And I'd seen that in every tarpon video I'd watched prepping for this trip. I'm like, oh yeah, when they jump, bow to the king, or whatever, drop your rod. So then it happens, you're like, like there's no,
panic.
It happens so fast, and it's chaos, and I'm trying to talk to the camera, and this fish is jumping. He's like, put your rod down. And I'm like, I'm trying. And then I fought it for a little bit, and then snap, line broke. And I think, what did he say? Like 40% hookup is like a 40% catch rate or something like that is pretty good. Like everybody breaks off. It happens. And one of the things that happens, he's like, yeah, your fish was down there and your line was bouncing off about 500 other tarpon as it was trying to swim to this giant school of giant, strong fish in the ocean. Like it's amazing that you catch them at all.
Right.
And that was pretty cool. And getting, Dan, I think one of the things that surprised me the most was when you'd get them up next to the boat, just how shiny they were.
They're like a big shiner minnow, basically. It's pretty cool fish.
That was so much fun. And the grouper was cool. We didn't catch like a 300, 400 pounder, but we caught, 100 pounders or whatever it was, some pretty nice fish. And and you're in like 10 feet of water. So think about that, catching 100 and vertically jigging basically in 10 feet of water or whatever it was. It was pretty shallow. It was like 10, 12 feet, wasn't it, Dan? Do you remember?
Probably a little deeper than that. Probably
maybe 20 feet?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't remember. But it was shallow. When you think about catching 100-pound fish just straight up and down, almost like sturgeon in a sense. But man, the fight that these things put up, they're so strong. The gear, I think we were using rebar to catch these fish, something like that. Steel, like they're so heavy. It was what was the pound test on that line? It was so thick.
800.
Jeez.
I don't think he's even kidding.
I'm dead serious. It was 800-pound test.
Yeah.
So the only reason they don't use 900 is because it's too hard to tie.
It's just like rope.
Jeez.
Yeah. It's so much fun. And of course, just being down there, you're in Florida, but you're not, like, especially that Englewood, Punta Gorda area. It's just not quite as touristy. So you don't feel like you're on Miami Vice. There's a reference that probably dated me a little bit, but you're in a really cool, like that whole area was built on fishing villages. Like it's got a fishing culture to it, and there's seafood everywhere, and we ate all of it.
That sounds so good.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun in that video. We'll be coming soon to the Fish Hunt Forever YouTube channel. You'll be able to check that out. David, how about you?
I'm gonna have to say going to Africa for pretty awesome trip, bucket list trip. So
Now you did shoot a couple animals over there.
Yep, I shot 4.
Okay.
But other people shot more, but I left room for stuff for me to shoot next time.
Sure. What did you shoot over there?
2 blessed bucks, a spring buck, and a black wildebeest.
Would you, if you were to do it again, would you pick those same 4 again?
I think I'd probably go for impala, warthog, maybe a zebra or something like that.
Why would you change?
Just because I've shot those already, and there's such a diversity of animals that you can hunt there. So, I don't know, try something different.
How much of those did you get to eat?
They kind of pooled everything from the camp. It wasn't just our group there, so we ate, I think probably each of those animals we had at least once during the trip. A couple zebras.
I've heard zebra's pretty good.
That was really good. Impala was really good. What's the other one? Gemsbuck. That was really good too.
You know, I hear people, when it comes to Africa, and people think about, zebras and giraffes and lions and all this stuff, and people get weird about it sometimes. But then you hear something like that, like how good a zebra is to eat. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Like, I don't need a full body mount of a zebra. I mean, the rug, making a rug or something would be pretty cool. I'd love to put one of those on the wall or on the floor or whatever, but I want to eat one. Like, I would love to go over there and try eating one.
Yeah, we asked right away when we got there, what's the best table fare? And they said zebra.
Yeah.
So,
that would be cool.
Yeah, it was good.
So if someone's going to plan a trip, what would you tell them?
I would say keep an eye. We got our trip through Ducks Unlimited. They have a lot. This camp does a lot with Ducks Unlimited, so they do auctions or silent auction items, and you can get them pretty reasonable. And a big trip for multiple people for a reasonable price.
Dan, how many like banquets have we been at where they've auctioned off some of these trips, and it's like, oh my, we have to buy one of these. Like, it's so cheap. Like, it's insane.
Every a glow conference we've ever been to.
Yeah. I got to do it one of these years. I want to go over there and check. How long of a trip was it?
The total was like 8 days, but we were there for 6 days.
A couple days of travel.
Yep.
What was the travel like?
It was long. It was a long flight. It was a 16-hour flight.
So did you fly out of the Twin Cities?
So we flew to Atlanta first. So that was a couple hours, and then it was 16 hours from Atlanta to.
It was a 16-hour flight from Atlanta?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
To Johannesburg. And then we stayed there the first night, and then the safari company picks you up
in a car and just
the next morning and then drive out.
How far of a drive was it from there?
I think it was 4 hours.
Okay.
So, I mean, you got to see a lot of cool stuff on the drive to camp.
Yeah, I don't mind that. when I went down to Argentina, we went to two different outfitters, guides down in Argentina. We flew into Buenos Aires, and then we had to go 3 hours south to one, and then we had to go 3 hours north to the other, which ended up being, a 6-hour drive to get up there. But you got to see so much of the country and the countryside, being out of the big cities or seeing some of the small villages and some of the small towns, and maybe stop and eat somewhere, some sort of authentic cuisine. It's kind of neat. I mean, to me, that's kind of part of the experience, I think.
Yeah, it was cool just to see. I didn't realize how much agriculture was there. I mean, there was a lot of cornfields and bean fields.
In South Africa?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was pretty interesting.
Did you learn anything about growing corn?
We did Google it on the trip because I was like, what kind of yields do they get? Because they're like
Farmer David.
36 to 60-inch rows. And yeah, they don't get very good yields, but they grow it.
So how different is it? Like, they got big combines? Are they, like, what's the equipment like?
Well, it would have been coming into their spring. So everything had been harvested. So I didn't get to see any of the equipment out there. But yeah, I'm sure it's very similar to the machinery we use.
And that, I don't want to keep bringing up Argentina as a kind of in comparison to this, but when we were down there, it was like the same distance from the equator down there that we are up here. So it was all corn and soybeans and cattle. Mm-hmm. So it was, beef obviously in Argentina is huge, but it looked like we were in South Dakota half the time. Yeah. Except you'd see some weird animal run by. Like, I've never seen that in South Dakota before.
A lot of cows, and you'd be driving by a field and there'd be a DeKalb sign next to the cornfield.
In South Africa?
Yeah.
Wow, I had no idea.
I'm like, that's weird.
Interesting.
So yeah, different, but also similar in some ways. So it was a cool trip.
So you do it again?
I'd do it again.
All right. Well, Tazen Lake obviously has been a huge part of what we do each summer, and it's been a big part of my life for the last 10 years. It's hard not to talk about Tazen Lake. Obviously, fall in Saskatchewan, shooting waterfowl up there is unreal. Punta Gorda. But guys, I think the easiest one for people to do, one of my favorite things to do every year.
Ice fishing in a state park.
No, that's number 4 on the list.
Oh.
The SJR 500 up on the Rainy River. Like, it's such a good time. The fishing is unbelievable. I have no idea what kind of haircut I'm going to have this year. Should we do it? We need to start planning this. It's going to be April 7th and 8th?
7th and 8th, yeah.
So it's the last Tuesday and Wednesday before the walleye season closes on the Rainy River. It's a $40 entry fee. It's a 2-day fish donkey tournament. It's so much fun. We're based out of Riverbend Resort. And last year we did a sturgeon stash contest. Do we bring back the sturgeons?
No, we can't run that.
Should we do something different?
I had an idea and I forgot it.
Okay.
I did. I remember I brought it up to you probably late one night, and much like most of my ideas, though I don't write them down, I forget them. Mm-hmm. David, the Family Guy episode where they record themselves at the bar because they all wear body cams because they always think they have $1 million ideas.
Yeah.
But then they can't ever remember them the next morning. So I guess I need to just do that.
Brilliant.
Put a notepad on your nightstand so you can write down your ideas.
What's really cool about living in 2025 is our phones have these things called notes apps. Yeah. I have a notepad with me wherever I go. It's just a matter of taking it out and writing it down. Actually, maybe I should go through my notes real quick. Maybe
it might be in there.
Let's see. What do we got? I gotta do that. I'm finding things I need to do. I have chores here.
I do remember talking about that on the Rainy River. If you have a good idea for a theme for us, let us know in the comments or send us a message wherever you're watching this or listening to this. But make plans for it. It's really a good time. And the fishing, I'm not going to say the fishing is secondary to the tournament, to the party, the celebration, but it's just as much fun, I think, off the water as it is on the water. And the fishing is usually unreal. I know the ice pack depend. Each year the ice pack varies where the river is opened up to. But man, we've caught some big fish and a lot of fish in this tournament, and it's become a tradition for a lot of anglers in Minnesota to go to the Rainy River in the spring, and it's becoming a tradition for us to do it during this SJR 500 fishing tournament. You can find out more at fishhuntforever.com. Did you figure it out, Dan?
No, I didn't.
All right.
We'll take suggestions. I don't know. Maybe it's mullets or I don't know, cowboy hats or
it's
mutton chops.
No. No.
Mullet chops. I like that. Mullets, and we have to use, you can only fish with a mullet.
No.
See where I'm going there?
I do. I don't think we'll catch any walleyes.
Probably not. Never know.
Catch a lot of northerns.
All right. Well, we'll work on that and try to get something figured out. In the meantime, we are going to go up to Lake of the Woods and get a fishing report from Joe Henry and Ethan Peterson from Cyrus Resort. He's on the lake right now. Before that, though, we're going to learn a little bit more about a new stocking effort for Perch and Devil's Lake. Todd Caspers, biologist with the North Dakota Game and Fish Department, will join us when we come back. It doesn't get much better than fresh perch and fresh walleye. If you're looking for an exciting winter fishing destination, come to Devil's Lake, North Dakota. Haybale Heights Campground and Resort is on the ice with a fleet of snow bears, keeping you mobile and warm so you can stay on the roaming schools of fish. Haybale Heights on the east end of Devil's Lake has knowledgeable guides, comfortable cabins, and their own lake access, making your trip as successful and stress-free as possible. To book your trip, go to haybaleheights.com. That's haybaleheights.com. All right, Devil's Lake is a world-class fishery in North Dakota. We've had the pleasure of going up there multiple times and chasing perch around, chasing walleyes, open water, in the snow bears, through the ice. It's always a fun trip to go up there. And Dan and I were sitting around the other day, and we saw a story from Tori McCormick at Outdoor News about stocking perch in Devil's Lake. And we went, what's going on up there? So we asked Todd Casper, biologist with North Dakota Game and Fish Department, to explain what's going on. Todd joins us now. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. Now, first of all, let's just kind of let our listeners know a little bit about your background. Now, you like Devil's Lake is kind of your turf, isn't it?
Yeah, essentially, I'm the biologist that's responsible for the Devil's Lake system, which includes Lake Irvine, Devil's Lake, of course, and then Stump Lake too. I do have some duties revolving around the Red River as well, though.
That's probably an easy fishery to be a part of. I mean, nothing ever changes. It never gets bigger or smaller.
Yeah, I assume you're being facetious there.
So just a little, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Devil's Lake has had large changes, especially in water level and size over the years. From 1992 to 2011, there was a vertical rise of, I believe, like 30 feet or better. So it changed things quite a bit.
Yeah, I was living in North Dakota from 2000 to 2012 or so, and I was in Fargo mostly, but we were close enough. And between the stories of outlets and fluctuating water levels and things like that, like Devil's Lake was a pretty hot topic even in Fargo. And we had those wet years. I mean, the 90s were pretty wet, but we had quite a bit of water come through during that stretch as well up there. So it was it was an interesting time, and I was glad I wasn't in charge of managing anything up there, because I'm sure it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, I wasn't here until 2012 is when I started with the Game and Fish Department. So I was essentially, I didn't really see those low water days or anything on the way up, but I've been here when it's been up, essentially.
Sure. So are you like, if you got there in 2012, I mean, were you basically, that was a job like, hey, Devil's Lake is open, we need you to go work there? Or did you want to work there, or how did that happen?
Oh, well, I mean, I was, just looking for work as a fisheries biologist, and, I kind of expanded my search a little bit. I'm from Iowa originally.
Okay.
And, the fisheries jobs don't exactly grow on trees, so I expanded my, radius of looking for jobs, I guess, and I ended up finding the announcement for the job here and ended up getting it, so.
Well, that's a pretty special place to be stationed at.
Yeah,
though, I mean, to be working at.
I didn't necessarily even realize that at the time, what history it had, but I learned pretty quick once I got here.
I bet. And the history is pretty wild. One of my first trips there was probably about 12 years ago, and I started to learn really more and more about the lake. It's funny, being in Fargo for all those years, I didn't really get to Devil's Lake much until after I pretty much left Fargo. I didn't get to do much when I was in Fargo other than do radio. I was kind of trapped in a studio, I think, all the time. But I learned a little bit about the history of that lake. And if you go back, I don't know how many years it is, but at one point the salinity level in it was so high that it was kind of tough for fish to even survive in there, wasn't it?
Yeah, and and at times they were even concerned about winter kill with just the water was getting so shallow that oxygen was getting depleted in the wintertime. And like, I believe there was one year when East Bay, they thought might win or kill just because it was getting to that point, but it didn't. And then, the water ended up coming up, so that wasn't a concern anymore.
It's an amazing story, really, when you think about it. And then somebody thought it'd be a good idea to try stocking northern pike in there. And then they put in white bass as a forage. Is that how it all started?
Well, pike were actually thought to be native to the lake. They were referenced in some, literature from way back in the day. So they were actually probably native to the lake. And white bass were stocked, kind of in that lower water period. I think in the 1970s when, the salinity was higher then, of course, when the water was lower. And they can tolerate a little more salinity. So they were kind of thought to be a higher salinity game fish. And they persisted ever since.
It's interesting to think that walleye and perch, like the fish that are targeted the most up there, almost, kind of came last. And my favorite story was I talked to Bruce Bonzer one day, and he was talking about working with Al Kryle, and he filled a boat gunnel to gunnel with perch and brought them into Creel Bay and just started dumping them in the lake. Like that's to me is one of the wildest fish stocking stories I think I've ever heard, especially on a body of water like Devil's Lake.
Yeah. I mean, if a population is going to take off in like a new lake, it usually doesn't take too many fish to really get it going.
My favorite part of that story is then he had to sell the boat because it smelled so bad. Perch stuck under the seats. And
I'm sure.
Couldn't find them all.
Lost a few under the seats, yeah.
Right. Well, it's become quite a fishery. What's going on with the lake right now?
Well, like water level wise, we're down from the high, of course, but relatively speaking, we're still pretty high. And, where that goes from here, who knows? Only Mother Nature can say that. So Mother Nature is pretty much in charge of that aspect of the fishery. But walleye population is doing well, according to our netting surveys and everything. And white bass are doing pretty well right now, too. They've kind of been having a lot better reproduction than they sometimes do in the lake. So with that, the white bass have kind of picked up in numbers lately anyway, since 2015 essentially. Pike and perch have kind of followed a similar trend. When the lake came up, I'm talking in really general trends here, but when the lake came up, that provided more habitat for spawning for pike and perch. They both like to lay their eggs on some sort of vegetation or woody debris or something along those lines. So that benefited those, species a lot when the water was consistently coming up. And since it doesn't always have to be that way, of course, but that's the general trend. And since, 2011, we've kind of been trending down a little bit, and that doesn't favor them so much. And, pike numbers have dwindled. They haven't had strong reproduction. We don't really monitor their reproduction all that well, just because our netting survey, the net size is kind of too small to catch those young pike. But, just based on the population, they probably haven't had good, strong recruitment. I mean, they're still recruiting, but not like it was. So the numbers are down from what average is, essentially. And perch are kind of the same story. Although they're a little bit more up and down than the pike are. But right now we are in a low point. We did have, a pretty low catch this last year, and, people were reporting pretty slow fishing the year before. So they weren't wrong, I don't think. Although our netting survey the year before that showed the perch were a little below average in that survey, but not to where you think the fishing would have been that slow either. But
why do you think the fishing was slow then?
Maybe we don't net the perch as well as we do walleye, so there could have been a source of error with that. Or potentially the forage conditions could have been such that the perch just weren't really hungry. I mean, that can always be the case too. Just
that'll happen a lot.
A fish is down there doesn't mean it's going to bite, I'm sure, as you're
But
unless
you have live scope, then it's automatic.
Well, yeah, maybe. You can at least see them not bite your lure then and make you even more mad, right?
So you're saying that perch numbers have kind of started to drop since 2011? Is that right?
Well, not necessarily
Or they-
consistently, but we just haven't had the consistency in the reproduction. And that's kind of been the story of perch and Devil's Lake all along too. I mean, there's been low number years in like 94 and then like 2008 too. So, the main issue with the perch population is, they do have pretty inconsistent reproduction and recruitment. So when they don't have a good year class for a while, then the numbers just kind of dwindle, and then you can get, times like this when the numbers get pretty low compared to average.
So if you
But
were
then
to,
by the same token, if you have, a few good years that you strung together, and then the numbers can get a lot higher than average too. So
was there anything you can look at in 94 and 08 and say, okay, this is why the numbers were down?
the predicting recruitment and figuring that out is one of the big mysteries of the fisheries field in general. There's so many, things that play into it. I mean, it can be weather, it can be, just the timing of food abundance when those young fish are coming off their egg sac and need to feed. There's a whole bunch of things that can play into whether a particular, group of fish or a year class ends up being strong or weak or in between.
I was just wondering if there's any correlation you can find with what's going on out there right now. Is it, water levels? Is it, spawning conditions, water temps, things like that?
Oh, I mean, in general, those early, kind of that, once the water started coming up consistently and provided good spawning habitat, we had a run of years when our netting surveys basically showed that, perch reproduction was pretty successful, for a good string of years in a row even. And then about 2001 or so, we kind of saw that become more inconsistent again. And why, I don't know, but the theory we maybe kind of have is that around that same time frame, the salinity in a lot of the lake was low enough now that walleye could start reproducing pretty effectively. And we kind of started seeing them coming on, so maybe they're playing into it a little bit too, and kind of
Eating a lot of them, I bet.
Putting a little bit of a cap on the perch reproduction when those little walleyes are out there too. But
I was going to ask that question, like how much, walleyes obviously like to eat perch. How much, when the walleye population goes up, do you see a dip in perch, or do they kind of both go up and down together?
Oh, I mean, it's not necessarily a consistent thing where you can just blame one fish or the other. But with pike, I mean, we've looked at that, and it's, they actually tend to have a tendency to go up together just because of the spawning, probably situation. They both kind of benefit from similar spawning habitat. But, in general, having a lot of walleyes is probably not going to help the perch.
It's hard to complain about it, though.
They have to eat something, and if there's a lot of little baby perch, they're going to be more than happy to eat them. So,
well, with the perch numbers are down right now, and if they've been down, kind of trending downward for a little bit, when did you start looking? Like, when's the last time there was some stocking that took place in Devil's Lake, and at what point did you say, hey, maybe we need to think about supplementing this population a bit?
Well, it hadn't been for some time. That way back in the day, they'd played around with some stocking of some fingerlings and adults at times too, like you mentioned in your earlier story there. But in the more recent time frame, the last time perch were stocked was in 2006 and 2007, and those were stocked as fingerling fish that are an inch long or whatever. And those fish were, back then we called it like oxytetracycline. Is a chemical that you can use to mark those fish. They're like otolith, will absorb that chemical, and then you can view that under a microscope essentially and see that little like a goldish type of ring. So you could tell what fish were stocked and what fish weren't by whether they had that ring or not on their otolith. And in general, those stockings weren't real successful.
Interesting. Okay.
Well, actually, that was 05 too. I forgot. It was 05 too. And 05, the numbers of stocked fish were higher, but the overall numbers were pretty low. So it didn't turn a poor year class into a good one by any stretch. And then those other years, 06, 07, you had lower contribution of stocked fish, but there were a lot more natural ones too, to kind of, dilute their contribution essentially. So overall, the main benefit to the population was the natural fish when they recruited successfully rather than the stocking. Devil's Lake is just so big, it's roughly 100,000 acres that you need so many fish to try to make a difference.
Yeah. And
especially with fingerlings, or fry or something like that.
So if you're going to stock something again, like, are you looking back on that 05, 06, 07 stocking effort and doing anything different from that or learning from that experience? I'm sure the lake levels are a little bit different from then too. How much of that factors into what you're going to do moving forward?
Well, we didn't really want to try to do any fingerling stocking anymore because it proved to be not real successful.
Yeah.
That and, our hatchery partnership with the Fish and Wildlife Service. We don't own a state hatchery. We really work with the Fish and Wildlife Service to get most of our fish production needs met, which is a great deal for North Dakota sportsmen. But
I've learned
they have limits to what they can support.
I'm sorry. I've learned you can just go over to Wood Lake with a rowboat and just fill it up gunnel to gunnel and bring them over to Creel Bay.
Yeah, that might work to start a new population, but it doesn't usually work so well to add fish to an existing population typically. But, anyways, I was talking about the hatchery situation where with our kind of like all these, mini Devil's Lakes out in the state, with the wet cycle we've had, created a lot of mini Devil's Lakes almost. So, there's all these, walleye fisheries out in the rest of the state that, are pretty dependent on stocking. They don't reproduce real well in most of those, we don't think. So we need to be stocking them to keep those populations up. And so that leads to a large demand for walleye fingerlings every year. And the thing with trying to produce perch fingerlings too is that they kind of interfere with just the timing. Like pike you can raise just ahead of the walleyes and get them out and then double crop that pond essentially. You don't usually get as much production for the walleyes when you do that, but you can at least raise another crop of fish essentially. Whereas the perch kind of fall right in between, and then you basically have to give up, the pike and the walleye production to raise a pond of perch. So they're pretty, intensive to get them out of the hatchery system. And, like I said, our hatchery, capacity for what we're trying to produce for walleye and, a little bit of pike too is essentially already spoken for. We're pretty much at max capacity every year too.
So we
probably will be for the foreseeable future, as long as there's, a good abundance of these smaller lakes that can produce good walleye populations, given that we stock them.
Well, walleye is still, especially here in Minnesota anyway, walleye is still king, although perch are pretty important fish, particularly for Devil's Lake, but a lot of those slough lakes and smaller lakes, of course, across North Dakota. So what's your plan then? Like, how are you is it going to be a 1-year stocking effort, multi-year? You're going to try to stock?
What we're going to try to do essentially is, the southeast district of our state, the southeast fisheries district essentially is blessed with, a couple of lakes that tend to produce a lot of perch year in and year out. And, they're pretty overabundant in general in those lakes. And so it doesn't hurt to take some fish out of those just to improve the growth of the fish that are left. Otherwise, they probably just stunt and they don't produce much of a fishery in that regard if they do that. So a lot of years we were moving those perch to, maybe start a new lake or if we'd had a lot of winter kills, in a hard winter, we'd try to restart some of them perch fisheries in those small lakes to jumpstart them and get them going again. But, knock on wood here, we shouldn't have much of those needs next year because we don't foresee any big need for new lakes or to restart winter kill lakes, assuming we have a decent winter, which so far is looking promising. So we probably can take the entire kind of production of trap and transport work that that we do out of those lakes to bring those fish to Devil's Lake to try to, supplement the population a little bit. And
then
we're targeting, hopefully, it depends on what they're able to net for us. The Southeast, fisheries guys are going to be the ones that do the netting and the transporting and everything probably. But we're targeting roughly 100 to 200,000 fish, hopefully. I mean, if we could get more, we'd probably take more, but
Sure.
That's kind of the ballpark we're shooting for. And a lot of these fish are going to be, this is a lake that they kind of have, some stunning issues, and they're going to be, relatively small fish. They're not going to be these, nice sized fish that anglers are going to want to keep right away. A lot of them are probably going to be in that kind of 4-inch, range, kind of a yearling size fish on Devil's Lake, essentially. But, when they get put into a new situation where the forage situation for perch in Devil's Lake is usually pretty good, and they grow pretty fast. So they should pick up on their growth pretty fast and essentially catch up to the Devil's Lake fish, what the natural ones would be growing, their growth rates. So,
yeah, if you're looking at Devil's Lake perch and say an 11-inch perch on Devil's Lake, how long does it take to get to that length?
Just in general, kind of with the aging we've done and growth, analysis we've done on Devil's Lake is, in general, a 2-year-old fish is going to be about 8 inches long. And then like the next year they're 10, and then the next year they're 11. So like a 4-year-old essentially. And then by age 5, they're usually kind of pushing that 12-inch mark.
So a population like that can actually rebound pretty quick. Like it doesn't take too long.
Yeah, once you get a good year class or two to come along again, and after another year or two, the anglers will start to see them again. When those fish turn age 2, they'll start to show up for the anglers. They'll be catchable essentially.
Yeah, how will you after the stocking effort takes place, then how will you measure the success through netting and fishing?
Well, it'll
stories?
be through the netting survey to some extent, but there's a couple different techniques where we're still kind of batting around what we want to do for sure, which just depending on cost and what we think will work out the best. We're maybe going to look at a technique called otolith microchemistry, where instead of like with the OTC looking for a mark on the fish's otolith, you essentially send these out to a lab and they analyze the chemical signatures in the bone essentially, and then hopefully we can use that to distinguish like what fish in our like July netting survey for perch were from the stocking from these southeast lakes versus the ones that were from Devil's Lake.
Sure.
And another technique kind of like that would be like eye lens stable isotope chemistry. It's a similar concept where you're looking at like signatures that the fish pick up from the lake that they live in or the water they live in, and it's incorporated into their tissues, and you can kind of go back in time and look at where they were. It's really cool techniques. Yeah,
I know otolith that bone usually allows you to age a fish. I didn't realize you could also try to track, kind of where that fish originated from if it wasn't native to that lake. And that also saves you a step, I suppose, in the pre-stocking process to inject that chemical.
Yeah, then we don't have to try to mark those fish en route or anything like that, because you probably have to sit in the chemical solution for 6 hours or something. Well, that's not all that practical. We'd want to just haul them up here and get them out of the truck as soon as we can, to maximize their survival.
So there's always some mortality taken into account. Let's say you get 100,000 fish. What do you hope to see for a survival rate out of that?
It could be so variable. That's the nature of the fish population. The small ones have the most mortality, of course. So, we'd be, just as a ballpark guess, we'd probably be, it depends on the size structure, what the fish end up being too. If we end up getting a few more bigger ones, then that will help too. But
I should say, let me reframe the question. Let me ask you, what's an ideal survivability? Because I know you'll take as many fish as you can get to bring up there, and you always hope that they'll all survive, of course. But when you look at projects like this, I'm sure there's some, okay, if we get this much, we can take into account, X amount of mortality for one reason or another. What would an ideal survivability rate be?
I mean, like, ideal would be as high as possible, but we can't really control that.
Sure.
We can't really control that anyway, because the walleyes are out there and the pike are out there. I mean, they're going to be the biggest source of mortality for these fish, assuming that they, tolerate the hauling process well, which they should. In the springtime, they generally haul pretty well just because the cold water holds a lot of oxygen, and they don't get real stressed on that trip.
So is this, and then is something like this?
They're going to be essentially exposed to a similar amount of mortality as whatever the natural fish in the lake are, given their, whatever size of particular fish is.
Sure. All right. And then a project like this, then, is this just funded through like North Dakota Game and Fish funds, or is this, something special to Devil's Lake, or how does something like this get paid for?
Well, it's just our Game and Fish funds.
Okay.
It's, our standard operating budgets and everything like that. Sure. I mean, the evaluation part is a little bit of special money, but, that's still from our Game and Fish budget, I believe. Some of the higher ups are the ones that play around with the money issues like that.
Sure.
So I'm not the expert on that. But,
right. Well, I was just curious, because stuff like this is important when you consider the tourism aspect to a body of water like Devil's Lake. It's important to keep the fishing success rates high in a place like that. There's a lot of people that depend on that to make a living. So, all right, Todd, anything else about this?
Something else it kind of plays into like the mortality you were getting at and everything like that, and what would be success. I mean, to me, the big X factor here is going to be what the natural strength of this 2025 year class we had was in Devil's Lake, because our netting survey showed this year that thankfully it looked like they had pretty decent reproduction. So I mean, this situation may kind of abate itself anyway, even if we didn't end up stocking.
It'll make your job easier.
Knock on wood. There's other issues that could happen with them. Maybe our netting didn't do a great job indexing them this year, and there's not really as many as we thought, or maybe they don't survive the winter very well, or something along those lines. But if we have a good natural year class, they might, kind of show the stocking was not as effective as if, for example, that year class didn't exist.
Well, a good couple of years of natural reproduction, and you're going to look pretty good over there. You might get a raise even.
I don't know about that. Well, the unknown kind of right now is how strong that natural year class will show up to be. But what should be a good problem to have, right? I mean, even if our stocking doesn't show up to be that effective, well, we didn't need it to be, because we have these natural fish now that came online for us at a good time. So, gosh,
it'd be great if both things happened. And it's nice to be able to go back in a couple of years and look, dissect some of those fish, look at that otolith, and do some of that scientific work to try to determine what was successful and what wasn't for future efforts.
We'll see if it turned out to be all that effective or not. And, if it doesn't, and maybe for the reason I just said, I mean, maybe it's just because we weren't going to stock enough fish to outshine a good natural year class,
Well, it's making the effort, I think, that counts, and I'm sure people, anglers and resorts and guides, I'm sure appreciate that effort to keep Devil's Lake fishing as successful as possible. All right, Todd Caspers.
And like I said earlier, now is a good time to actually try something like this, just because we don't have probably a real significant need for these kind of trap and transport sized type perch next year, we don't think. So instead of just, having them go somewhere they really didn't need to go, or not even, trapping that many fish, we can at least maybe do some good, with them by moving them to Devil's Lake this year or next spring.
Well, and it's nice to have kind of natural fish hatcheries too, where you can take some of these
That's
fish.
kind of what those lakes are.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
Natural perch hatcheries. They do,
Yeah.
they do a good job at it.
Yeah, perfect.
Some
All right.
lakes just crank out perch and some don't. And Devil's Lake is kind of one that doesn't consistently.
Well, I appreciate the info about everything. We're looking forward to getting back up there. And if we do really well, we'll let you know. And if we don't, we'll send you some angry emails and
Yeah, okay.
let you know how we did. All right, Todd Caspers, biologist with North Dakota Game and Fish Department. Thanks for the time today on the show.
Yep, no problem.
All right, we're going to head up to Lake of the Woods when we come back.
Lake of the Woods is the walleye capital of the world. Plan your ice fishing trip today. We have over 60 lodging options with 30 full-service resorts featuring heated fish houses, ice transportation, meal plans, and sleeper house options. Fish from the famous Rainy River in the South Shore.
You never know what you're going to catch.
To the scenic Northwest Angle.
Here at the Northwest Angle.
Catch walleye, sauger, perch, sturgeon, eelpout, tullibee, northern pike, and more. Fish Minnesota's Lake of the Woods. Learn how at lakeofthewoodsmn.com.
All right, time to head up to Lake of the Woods to check in with Joe Henry from Lake of the Woods Tourism. Joe, how's it going?
Hey, Bret, it's going good. It's going good. Things are, as you can imagine, things are really progressing up at Lake of the Woods as far as ice fishing goes. It's in a good way.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of posts from people recently that they spend, whether it's Christmas or New Year's, they like to spend the holidays up there on the ice.
Oh man, it's a blast. It's fun being up there during the holidays. It's cool. And we always say that, we always talk about these kind of the norms on progression of ice up at Lake of the Woods. And obviously it's always dependent upon Mother Nature. But, one of the things is right around Christmas, the ice roads normally start letting out, SUVs and maybe some light pickup trucks. Well, we're actually past that. So we are, to the point where a lot of the ice roads are letting out half tons pulling wheelhouses. There's even some roads that are they're allowing out 3/4 ton and even 1 ton pickup trucks out on the ice. So, and of course, every ice road is different. So you gotta, based on where you're going, you gotta check the weight limits. The bottom line is things are progressing very nicely. I know I checked with the folks up at the Northwest Angle, and that ice road that goes from Youngs Bay out to the resorts is open. So people are driving out to the Angle resorts as well, and of course fishing's going full swing up there as well. So it's good. It's things are cranking and fish are biting. I mean, we had this last week. We've had a lot of weather changes, a lot of storms come through. We had big time temperature fluctuations, and that always puts the fish in kind of a kittywampus mood. But even on the tougher days when they can see the fish down there and they're not cooperating real well, they're still pulling in some nice fish in the buckets by the end of the day. Got to fish a whole day though, and you got to work for them, right? I mean, you work that 1-2 punch of a jigging line and a dead stick. When conditions get tough with the weather and the fish are a little bit lockjaw, but you can see them down there. Don't be afraid to downsize your presentations. Pick out the smallest minnows in the minnow bucket. Maybe go to a plain hook. Maybe a small ice jig. Some people will even try wax worms on like a small jigging spoon. And then the other thing you can do is when they get lockjaw, don't be afraid to go the opposite and just get them frickin' fired up. Ripping a ripping wrap and get that vibration and the rattles going. A lot of times that'll bring fish in to hit the dead sticks. But the other thing is you'll get fish that all of a sudden, boom, out of nowhere, you'll see frickin' a fish on your electronics. I guarantee you that fish is hot to trot. You put that ripping wrap by him and go pop, pop, and it's going to eat it if it finds it, So it's just kind of it's a game, but just keep those. If you ever get up anywhere fishing, but certainly Lake of the Woods, if it's ever tough because of the weather conditions, they're turning those fish off or whatever, try those different techniques.
We're going to go onto the ice as well because, Joe, you brought us a special guest, Ethan Peterson from Cyrus Resort. He's in his truck on the ice right now on your road, it sounds like, Ethan. Where are you at?
Yep, we're on our road. I'm all the way out about 2.5 miles, I'd say, something like that, about 31 feet of water. So we're out here.
How have things been going so far this winter?
Yeah, it's been great, from ice conditions to people catching fish. We've had, numerous guests come in, and it's been one of the better starts to the year they've seen. So there's no complaints at all from myself.
Are you seeing anything as far as, for jigging? Are you seeing anything working better than something else this year so far?
It was kind of funny. Joe brought up the rip and wrap situation. So just this last week since Christmas time, I had I had my family and I out. We went on fishing. I'm a rip and wrap guy, so I threw them down there, and we picked up 2 slotfish like right away. We have numerous guests just this last week. I was talking to a guy today. He had a chartreuse and white standard rip and wrap, and it was a no-brainer. These fish would come in and they were hungry. So
that's my favorite way to do it too. And up on Lake of the Woods, and sometimes you're catching some smaller fish, sometimes you're getting into some of the bigger fish. I have not been afraid. I know, David, you and I fished up there out of a house one year, and I was putting on big rattle baits and jigging wraps,
giant baits. Yeah. I'm like, well, you call them in, I'll catch them.
But I caught them too.
You were catching them.
And I got some small saugers on some of the biggest baits I use. So I always tell people, don't be afraid to throw something big. We got a mutual friend, Tony Crotty, and every time I fish with him, he's got the smallest thing on in his tackle box, and I've got the biggest thing on, pretty much. I like to go big or go home, and usually it helps you weed through some of those smaller fish, but I found even up there at Lake of the Woods, some of those fish are so aggressive that you'll get even some of the smaller ones to hit some of those big, loud, noisy, aggressive baits.
Yeah, it's been all over the board, and like there hasn't been one thing that's been working better than the other, to be honest. You got your typical spoons, but I mean, people are throwing their plane hooks down with a split shot, full minnow, and you go out and you check all your guests, and it's an array of what everybody's using. There isn't one set thing out there right now. So,
have you has jigging been working about the same as dead sticks, or has one been better than the other?
It's there hasn't maybe really been anything overall this last week that I've noticed has been better. If you've these people, if they aren't getting them on, they're hitting one of the two, right? So it isn't, I would say they're calling them in, and it's 50-50 obviously what they're going to hit, and there hasn't really been a huge trend one way or the other, I would say.
So tell me about your operation up there. You guys have a road. Is that something that, say, if we want to come up and do some DIY stuff, we can access the lake through your road? Or is that if you want people to go out to their houses, they take your road out? How does it work?
Yeah, so I mean, we get people that come to our road. They bring a wheelhouse, they bring portables. We've had people, they'll haul their sleds and portables on the trailers and drive to the end of the road and then take off from there. We offer spots for wheelhouses, our accommodations there, we try to make it as easy as possible for anybody coming up to fish at Lake of the Woods. So, whether they're in our house or doing their own thing in portables, they got options, especially once we get out there. You can fish 15 miles out, or you can fish half a mile out, whatever your preference is.
I like the easy part, and the easiest really is just to go up there and fish out of one of your houses, probably.
It sure is, yeah. Yeah, the holes are drilled, the heat's on. We've tried to make our houses, very comfortable, so we've added boat seats in all of our houses. They ain't just sitting on a wood bench or anything like that. Yeah, that's something that we tried to do the last couple of years. Because everybody talks about a sore butt sitting on a plywood bench all day. So we're like, well, how can we make that better? Buy some boat seats. So
I gotta see. Do you have a picture of these somewhere?
Talk about your fish houses and talk about how many day houses do you have? Do you have sleeper fish houses? Just kind of talk about your spread, and then talk about just your ice road. Is that your ice road alone? Is it Cyrus's, or do you work with other resorts on it? And typically throughout a winter, how far out will your ice road go?
So yeah, we got 25 houses in our fleet. We can fish up to 120 people in one day, and our road per se. So we're on our own road. There's a few of the resorts that are together on their own just to the east of us, and then there's another resort that runs bombardiers on the west side. So we kind of shoot right up the middle, coming out of the Morris Point area there. And every year is different as to how long it is. You only move if you have to. You don't leave fish to find fish. That's my philosophy. So for instance, one year we only made it 4 miles out. The next year we were 15 miles out. So there's a lot of variables into that, as ice conditions and how rough, smooth, thickness.
I think all of that.
I don't try to leave fish to find.
Yeah, and I want to hear more about your operation, but I want to talk more about these boat seats. I'm not going to lie. I think I think that's kind of a brilliant idea. So I was looking on your Facebook page, and I did look like I can see one in a picture in the background, like half the boat seat in the background. So you have your benches, but then you just installed boat seats on those benches on the sides.
Yeah. Yep, precisely.
That's kind of brilliant. I've never heard of any. I mean, maybe other people have done that up there. I guess I just haven't heard of that before.
Yeah, I don't know who else other than people doing it to their own shacks, like private people. For the most part, I think most of the resorts they're the wooden benches, or they're folding chairs. So
I'll see if I can share this, Dan. Here's one. This chair looks comfortable. I'm not gonna lie. If look at that that one in the background. Looks like a pretty comfortable chair right there. Does it
sit in that all day?
Yeah. Does it swivel too a little bit, or is it fixed?
No, those ones are fixed. Yep.
Okay. Well, I think that's a great idea.
Ethan, we should. It's hard to mention Cyrus Resort without mentioning the reputation you have for good food. Maybe just talk about Cyrus, for people that don't know, is a full service resort on Bostic Bay, which is on the south end of Lake of the Woods, like Ethan said, by Morris Point. And it's just a little bit to the west of where the Rainy River goes into Lake of the Woods, which is called Wheeler's Point area. So, but Cyrus has a really good reputation for food. Maybe Ethan, just kind of comment on that, how people get meal plans and what's on your menu.
Yeah, we get a lot of people. They show up and they do the meal plan that keeps it simple, right? They just about making it as easy as it can possibly be for these guests that show up here. And we've always, I grew up with a family that had a restaurant. So prior to us coming up here, food's always been a big thing. Like you got to have good food. And my family, they spend a lot of time, going over the menu, and it's always about trying to make it better, right? How can we, make ourselves, stand out and provide the best experience possible to our guests? And food's a big one. People show up. I mean, obviously, fishing's the biggest part of it, but having a good bar and restaurant on the cake, in my opinion.
Oh, I think
I hear a lot about prime rib. I hear a lot about your Reubens. Don't you have like a walleye Reuben, I think?
Yes, we do. Yes, we have a walleye Reuben.
What's a walleye Reuben?
It's just like your typical Reuben. You just got big walleye fillet on there. So,
Bret, does that sound good?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think good food at a place like that is key. So was it a local restaurant up there, or what was somebody in your family a chef, or what's the history with the food?
No, so back, we lived in North Dakota prior to coming up here, and we just had a pizza place in a small community, and kind of developed from there. We offered, you had some Mexican food, and your fried chickens and your pizza, and it's just, I don't know, it's always been a staple in the house, right? We're always trying to make new things, and it's got to be good, and so that's kind of where the background comes from, I guess, on the restaurant side of things.
So how's the pizza then at Cyrus? I'd assume it'd be pretty good.
Good, yeah, good. It's simple. We kept it simple, just for the idea of it. Like we put through a lot of people in the evenings in the kitchen, so like our pizzas aren't a big giant pizza by any means. They're your typical like 16-inch, I believe, and they're simple. So it's simple and good.
Are they homemade, or are they?
Yes. Yeah, they're homemade.
So then that leads me to the next question. You maybe know where I'm going to go with this. Tell you what, it's nice having a pizza right in the resort and the bar and stuff. But tell you what, if a person wants to stop short of the resort, coming in from fishing, and have a cold one and a pizza, what's another option for them?
Yeah, so we started a ice bar, and I don't know if you could help me with this, Joe. Was it 4 years ago that we We started that in Denver.
Close, I think. Yep.
Something like that. Yeah, and so we offer, all your standard rail drinks out there and our frozen pizzas.
The Angry Walleye. That's the name of it.
Yeah,
Angry Walleye.
Yeah. So,
if somebody, so I would say this too for people that I get a lot of questions, Ethan. Hey, like that ice bar at Cyrus, can I just go out there? Yes, you can. If you're going to go to the Angry Walleye, it's my understanding that you're allowed to access the Cyrus Ice Road and go out and have a cold one, regardless of where you're staying up at Lake of the Woods. Is that right?
Yeah, and it doesn't cost you anything to go out there. If you're going out to the ice bar, it's you can just help yourself and drive out there. We don't charge.
Kind of a novelty. I know it. That you have the majority of spirits out there. You have beer. You have the homemade pizzas, big screen TVs, music. How big is that bar?
I want to say it's 18 by 36. And it's all tongue and groove on the inside. We got a pretty cool standing bar top table right down the center of it. That's a big slab of oak with all the epoxy in it and whatnot. It's a unique place. Definitely something you want to stop.
You don't play the wild games in there, do you?
We try to play all the games in there.
But now, Ethan, you're Bret and Danny are big wild nuts, and Ethan, you're a former hockey player.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Where did you play?
Yeah, I played 3 years of junior up in Canada.
Oh, you did? Where at?
Yeah. All in Manitoba. I played on a few different teams,
Okay.
like Verdun, Portage la Prairie. They had a team, and then I went way north the one year. I was up in Swan River, Manitoba. So that's like an 8 or 9 drive north of here.
So, sure.
And you were a goalie, right?
Yeah, it was.
You play goalie?
Yeah.
That's great. So you've got some experience on the ice, whether skating or fishing, and it's a lot of work. I apologize. Did you mention how many houses you run out there on the ice in the winter?
Yeah, so we got 25 houses.
25.
15 of them are 6-man, 10 of them are 4-mans. So
any sleepers?
We can fish, up to... No, we used to, and we had a lot of people looking at them, around the COVID times, and we started to get into, we've heard about the snow bear. Mm-hmm. Everybody running trips out of Devil's Lake, North Dakota with the snow bears. So we kind of thought of doing that as, something that people don't really do up here. There isn't much snow bear action up here. So when we brought on the snow bears, we ended up doing away with the sleepers just for management reasons, trying to handle the load. So we figured we'd be done with them and give the snow bears a shot. So
how many snow bears are you running?
We just got 2 for right now.
Okay.
A lot of it is, people will come up and fish in the houses for, a day or two, and then, let's mix it up. Let's go in the snow bear. So we do up to groups of 4 in them. So we can do groups of 8 with the 2 that we got.
They're fun to fish out of, and it's nice to be mobile like that.
It's a game changer. They're amazing, honestly. Until you actually fish one, you don't even understand what it's like.
Yeah, we fished out of a snow bear a couple of times, and it's kind of nice to not have to have a jacket on. I mean, it's like fishing at Lake of the Woods anyway. I mean, once you get in the house, you take your jacket off or whatever. It's usually nice and warm, but be able to pick up and move is a really nice ability to be able to move around like that. That's pretty handy. And we don't need to go down this road too far, but you have to maintain those. You have to maintain your houses. And when you talked about going out 4 miles, sometimes going out 15 miles, like it's a lot of work moving all that stuff and making sure that nothing breaks, especially, I mean, it never gets cold at Lake of the Woods, so you probably don't have to worry about doing that stuff in the cold, but it's a lot of work moving that stuff. It's kind of nice when you're only 4 miles out, I bet.
Yeah. I mean, the closer the better, in my opinion. It's a lot less that you got to try and manage and keep open, and that it never really windy up here, so that's never a problem, I guess.
Yeah,
but
right.
the wind is the one thing that's been been a here. It's been windy, but
You should
luckily
chat a little bit too about your.
got
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. You're breaking up just a little bit, so I stepped in there. Talk a little bit about how Cyrus also owns Cyrus's Flag Island Resort up in the Northwest Angle, and also talk about some of the, people can certainly drive up there like you go to any Northwest Angle resort or snowmobile cross, but you also have the opportunity, if you got a group, to take a bomber ride from Cyrus Resort up to Cyrus's Flag Island. Is that right?
Yeah. So we acquired, Cyrus's Flag Island. This will be our second winter with business up there. Like Joe was saying, you can drive up through the Northwest Angle, and we got a plowed road from Youngs Bay that runs right to the resort. That road goes to all the resorts. So you can drive yourself around that way, or, we offer rides up either ourselves or Lake of the Woods passenger service right from Cyrus. So one way or another, you can get yourself up there. Kind of the same deal as down here on the south end. The only difference, I guess, is we run bombers up there and we don't do a plowed road. So you really get off the beaten path up there.
Question I have then for Bret and Danny, guys, have you ever fished out of Cyrus's Flag Island before?
I was just gonna say we've been up there a few times and stayed there a few times, and it's such a neat place up there. And I mean, the angle is so unique in itself, but that resort is really nice. And I had a great time staying there. We've been there a bunch of times. Hey, Dan. Well, Dan's under the weather over there. I'm not sure he's alive to answer that question, but
we've been there a couple times. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we were up there, Ethan. We were up there last January. In fact, right about this time, just after the first of the year, we were up there with Ray Ruiz and Jen Pudence and Danny and Bret and myself. And man, we had a heck of a good trip. I mean, we caught, of course, our walleyes, our saugers. We caught some jumbo perch, just some dandies, and of course, the food at Flag Island was second to none.
Yeah, the food was good up there too. Yeah, no, it's great. I just backing up for a second, Dan, if you want to share I just found pictures of the angry walleye here for anybody watching this, if they want to see what it looks like in there. You guys have a Facebook page, Angry Walleye at Cyrus Resort, LOTW. And can you fish out of there?
No, so we opted to not do that just for the headache that can come with that if it starts to flood, or with all the wind that we get. It doesn't take much for a snowdrift around a building, then you got to start flooding, and then you got to move it. So we just kept it simple. You just stop in there, you can grab a bite to eat and a drink and sit down and watch the wild game or whatever.
I'm sure most people's they're not there for fishing most of the time, probably. They're there to grab something to eat. Maybe grab something to drink.
Yeah, that's usually, we get people, they finish fishing for the day and we'll be in the fish cleaning shack and like, where's this group at? Where's this group at? And you just take a short drive out there and they're in the angry walleye and we're like, hey, we're going to get your fish cleaned for you. They're like, oh yeah, we were on our way in, but man, we thought we better stop. So.
Well, it's pretty unique to be able to say that you drank in a bar on the ice at Lake of the Woods.
Yep.
Something everybody should do at least once in their lives, in my opinion. All right. What is, if people want to come up and do some fishing with you, do you got some openings?
Yeah. So our January is pretty booked up.
Okay.
That's going to be a tough to squeeze into. There's some room in February though. So, if people want to, if they're thinking about doing something, it's best to call sooner than later. We've had a few groups that, they come up religiously and they held off a little bit and those spots were taken. So, but yeah, we got room in February and early March. So
when people catch those fish and you guys clean them up, will you cook them up too?
Yeah, we offer that at the resort. It's, I want to say it's either $8 or $10 a pound. And we'll fry them up for you. And, but yeah.
All right, Joe, anything else you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I would just say, I think if you still want to get up there in January, I could at least give the resort a call, at least give them a shot. The other thing is, the reservations up at Cyrus's Flag Island might be a little bit more open even. But, if you're thinking about a trip in January, don't be afraid to give them a shot. But otherwise, there's lots of resorts around the area too if you have to be in January. Otherwise, like Ethan said, February and March, I'll say we ice fish up at Lake of the Woods. We have an extended ice fishing season, so our fish houses can be overnight on the ice through March 31st, which is about an extra month compared to the rest of the state of Minnesota, as we're border water with Canada. And our walleye season is open through April 14th. Our pike season never closes. So we really do have an extended season. And keep that in mind, too, as you're thinking about getting up there for an ice fishing trip or two yet this winter. Brett, other than that, I would just say that, the group at Cyrus does a very professional job. They got nice equipment. They really work hard in trying to get groups, like Ethan even said, getting groups to come back year after year. That's the kicker. And that's why they move their houses all the time. That's why they give people fresh sets. So when you get there, they're going to have a fresh set with the fish house. If they can, they're not going to leave fish to find fish. But at the same time, if those fish aren't here, they're putting miles on, because most importantly, they want people to catch fish naturally. So you rebook with them next year. And these guys are really, really good at it. You can tell, Ethan's personality is very, very good to deal with. And I think you'll find that about the majority of the guys up there are just really first-class people.
All right, Ethan, if people want to get a trip booked, give us your info, the web address, and people want to come up and fish and maybe talk about junior hockey in Manitoba. What should they do?
Yeah, call the resort. We got people that are there every day willing to answer the phone. And, we're here and we're out on the lake. So if you want to get a trip, get in contact with the office. Our phone number's on our Facebook, or you can just Google it.
And I would say that
we'll look at making.
And I would say that web address is cyrusresort.com. And if you want to give them a call, it's 218-634-2548. Now, if you're looking at Cyrus's Flag Island, that's going to be a little different web address, and that one is cyrusflagislandresort.com.
There you go. All right, Ethan, thanks for the time today. Good luck out there. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
All right, and Joe, if people want to learn more about a trip to Lake of the Woods, what should they do?
Hey, check out our website, and that is Lake of the Woods, MN for Minnesota. Lake of the Woods, MN.com.
Thanks for listening to the Fish Hunt Forever show. Download the Fish Hunt Forever podcast wherever you get podcasts, or watch on the Fish Hunt Forever YouTube channel. If you like today's show, please give us a 5-star review. Find past shows, articles, news about regulations, and more at fishhuntforever.com.